Hello. I'm really glad you're here. And I want to welcome you to part 2 of our series on freedom and the kind of freedom that begins within. And so if you missed last week's video on what that actually means and how to turn within to claim your birthright of freedom, I invite you to go check that out. But let's dive into a question that often begins the visioning practice, which is what I introduced you to if you are not already familiar from Reverend Michael Beckwith. And that first question, guiding question that often begins the visioning practice is, what is Spirit's highest idea for me, for my life? And I want you to consider, what is Spirit's highest idea for your authentic freedom, for your authentic life, to show up as your authentic self? And I think there's so many ways that we get interrupted, right? Where our sense of self, our knowing of our authentic nature, and our courage to be that and live that way gets interrupted. And so what I want to talk about today is ways that you and I can get more aligned with that and courageously live from that place. Really, I think freedom could be another way of thinking of the moments in your life where you are just feeling yourself, where you are like, woo, I am feeling myself, and ain't nothing or no one gonna stop me from being this version of me and showing up and showing out as my authentic self. This is freedom. That is a free you living in the world. And I'm thinking of all the times that I haven't done that, and maybe you have some of those times too. I'm thinking of those times when I'm like, I can't wear that. I can't dye my hair that color. What? That's crazy talk. What are some of the times in your life that you have felt like you've needed to dim your light, not show up in your wholeness, shining? Rumi has this quote, shine like the whole world is yours. That's freedom. Shine like the whole world is yours. You have that right. And that is Spirit's highest idea for you. That is your birthright in this lifetime. That is what you are here for, is to shine in the only way that you can. That, my friends, is freedom. And so take a moment with me right now. And I want you to think of a place in your life where you are not shining. I want you to think of a relationship, a work situation, some place in your health where you aren't giving yourself permission to shine. I'll share with you that one of the things I have learned in my life through a struggle, like a real struggle with disordered eating, is that when I am deep in disordered eating, which for me has been compulsive eating and some years in my younger life of bulimia, what I've learned, the deeper I get into turning within and deeper into connection with my whole nature, is I can't hear myself. I can't hear that spark of the divine that's trying to show itself to me, in me, when I am practicing compulsive eating, or when I am overeating, or too much sugar, or really any sugar I'm learning is not working for me. But I can't connect, which means I can't shine. And it means that when I am disconnected from that voice, from that still small voice, from that sense of feeling myself, I am not experiencing my full access to my free living. I am not living free. I'm actually living armored. I'm living shut down and disconnected. And I'm sure that there are places in your life that you could probably, with an honest assessment, identify where you may be having an experience of disconnection. Because that place in your life where you aren't feeling shiny is also the place in your life where you are feeling disconnected. And you may not be aware, But that's part of this awareness that we're going to be working on all month long in this series. In order to be free and experience greater freedom is self-awareness. And sometimes that self-awareness means having an honest conversation with ourselves about the places we're not shining, about the places where we are experiencing disconnection. And so part of my spiritual practice has become, one, getting willing to let go of the behaviors that disconnect me, and two, daily committing to my connection to my own sense of self, daily committing to feeling myself, literally feeling myself. And in that willingness to get connected, and in that willingness to feel all that is in me to feel, my awareness of my whole true nature grows. So maybe put in the comments, where are you feeling less shiny? Where are you feeling disconnected? I invite you to not only acknowledge that to yourself, but acknowledge that to others. There's juice in allowing ourselves to be vulnerable and speaking or writing or chatting the truth. And then that's when we can act on it. That's when we can act on it. I want to share with you a quote from Michael Beckwith about visioning and this practice that you can engage in to become more self-aware. Because he says that really this practice is a practice of questioning and being willing to hear and listen for the answers. He says, behind every problem, there's a question trying to ask itself. Behind every question, there's an answer trying to reveal itself. And behind every answer, there's an action trying to take place. Behind every action, there's a way of life trying to be born. This, my friends, is a practice not only of self-revelation, it is a practice that lets you, if you are willing to sit in those questions, connected and centered in what is revealing itself in you, willing to ask the questions, and secondarily, but also just as important, willing to hear what your wisdom, not the wisdom out here, not even what I'm telling you, but what your wisdom has to tell you in response to those questions. So let's start with this idea that behind every problem is a question. So behind wherever in your life you are not shining, behind wherever in your life you are feeling disconnected, where you are not feeling yourself, behind that is a question. And I know for me, the question was, how can I hear my own wisdom more? How can I be more connected to my true nature, consciously connected to my true nature? That is the question behind my compulsive eating. What is the question behind the place in your life where you may be struggling and feeling not free? Take a minute and sit with that. Because it's that question that is really going to be the guiding motivation for you to sit with the rest of the process, to sit with what else needs to be understood and acted upon. Because you and I are not interested in a theoretical freedom. You and I are interested in a life of freedom, a life of authenticity, a life of joy and peace and love and connection. But the theory can't become a lived way of life until you are willing to sit with some of these questions, until you are willing to hear the answers from within. Sometimes I like to say, you are the boss of you. You have all of the authority to live the life that you have been put on this planet to live. to love the way that you have been put on this planet to love, to wear what you want, to do what you want, to say what you want, to show up and show out in all of your glory. And you are the boss of that. There's nothing outside of you that is in charge of your freedom. There's nothing outside of you that has the power to dim your light. This is the true gifting of a spiritual practice, of a spiritual life. It is a way of life. And this way of life has got more power in it than anything outside of you that is pressing down on your idea of what is possible for you. I promise. And it takes courage. It takes courage to take your power back. It takes courage to become the boss of your own expression, to become willing to show up in the world and show out in all of your glory. That's a courageous act. It's a radical act. It's a revolutionary act. And you have what it takes to do these activities, these practices, so that you can have the life of your dreams. And when you show up and show out in all of your shiny, shiny self, you are gifting life itself with your presence. This is the revolution. This is how all those circumstances change. This is how, when you show up in all of your glory, unapologetic, unwilling to participate in the cultural norms that ask you to be less than you are, when you divest from that, when you pull your power back from that, you become a change maker simply by showing up in your wholeness. That's how powerful you are. That's how free you already are. Freedom is contagious. Authenticity is contagious. This is the revolution you and I are looking for, to have a life that is beyond imagining and a world that is beyond our current imagining. To step outside of the limited imaginations of the systems and structures that are in place right now, that are crumbling before our eyes, necessarily so. But your safety and security is not dependent on that crumbling. Your safety and security and sense of freedom and connection and good is dependent on you taking your power back, claiming your freedom as yours now. As Tricia Hersey says in her book, Rest is Resistance, is softening into the possibility that you thrive now, not at some future moment. The freedom you and I long for is not theoretical. It's available to you right now. And the request that I am making of you, the invitation I am offering you, is to sit in the question that is underneath the place where you are struggling, that is underneath the place where you are not shining, where you may be showing up less than who you are. What is that question for you? That's your practice this week, is to sit with that and to find your question. And the rest of the series, we will be looking at the answer to that question and the action that it's asking you to take, and the way of life that it makes possible when you take that action. I love you so much. I am rooting for you. I am knowing absolutely, unapologetically, that you are free now and that you get to feel yourself in every moment of your life. And so it is. I want to invite you to go deeper. I want to invite you to a couple of in-person opportunities to do visioning and community and take this work deeper so that you actually get to have a lived experience of your freedom. And those will be happening July 9th and July 16th at 4 p.m., hosted by our practitioners, led by Joylyn Hertz. I really know that this will be an opportunity for you to really get into it Get into your freedom. Shine your light big and bright. And you can also join me on Zoom, particularly for those of you not in the Albuquerque area or not able to join us in person. Joy Lynn and I will be hosting a Zoom question and discovery session, 6 p.m. July 19th. And this will be an opportunity for us to discuss, do some practice together, and go deeper. If you need the link for Zoom, you've got to be getting our newsletter. So if you're not already getting our newsletter, go to abqcsl.org and sign up for the newsletter, and that's where you'll be able to find the Zoom link for the July 19th, Wednesday, 6 p.m. I can't wait to be in community with you.